When you were growing up, did you have heroes that you patterned your life after? Maybe they were people who you never met. They were like celebrity heroes, those who were known around the world maybe for their talent, for their abilities in certain things. And for me, growing up as a Chicago sports fan, people like Ryan Sandberg and Andre Dawson and Walter Payton and Michael Jordan, these were some of the heroes who I saw growing up that I wanted to be like athletically. And obviously it didn't really turn out that way, but you have those kind of people who you see them do their things, and I want to try to emulate that. Maybe you have people in your life, maybe it's your mom or your dad or an uncle or someone, maybe a coach, a teacher, someone at church that you grew up with, and you saw them and you saw their pattern of life, and you're like, I want what they have. And so as we're thinking about what we want to be like when we grow up spiritually, who do we want to pattern our life after? Well, there's this great chapter in the book of Hebrews. It's often called the Faith Hall of Fame, and the writer of Hebrews begins to talk about faith. He begins this little section talking about faith and what it is and how it's the hope of things that are still to come. Faith isn't things that are seen, but it's those things that are still coming on the horizon. He says without faith, it's impossible to please God. And so as we mature in our faith, we want to please God more, and we can't please God unless we have an ever-growing faith. And then he begins to tell stories of those who have gone before. And we read little snippets about Noah, and about Moses and about Abraham, and how they left the things behind of this world that would keep them from pursuing and loving God. And you can go back into the Old Testament, you can go back into the book of Genesis and Exodus, and you can read their stories about how they lived and how they failed. And they weren't perfect, but how they recovered from those moments and to continue to pursue and grow in their faith and knowledge and obedience to God. You go on through, and then there's a list of those at the end. He's like, I can't even get to all these because their stories would just be too numerous. He starts off the chapter 12 and says, we're surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. So as we are growing and as we are maturing and as we are living out our life, we're surrounded by an audience of those who've gone before, and they're looking down, they're watching us and saying, what are we doing to advance our faith? What are we doing to advance the love and knowledge of God? And so in the days and weeks ahead, how can we advance God's love? How can we advance God's plan? How can we advance God's kingdom beyond where we're at into the world around us, so that God's love and God's influence can grow in this culture, in this society? And there are some who might say, it's not our place to change people's minds. But that's the exact mission Jesus has given us. To help change people's minds, to leave behind an old life, a broken life, a life that brings death and destruction wherever it goes. That's what sin does. And to help change people's minds and change people's directions into a direction that will point them and lead them closer to Jesus, closer to the ideal life that God, our Creator, wants for us. And so who are your heroes? And how are we following after them as we pursue Jesus? Hey guys, I love you, and I'm praying for you, and I hope I get to see you real soon.